outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com. Hi folks, this is Alex Jones, and I want to tell you about the Silver Lungs generator. Now you can produce pure and endless colloidal silver and deliver the solution directly into the bloodstream by breathing the solution through the lungs. The respiratory system is the first line of defense for airborne pathogens and viruses. The Silver Lungs generator infuses the respiratory system with your self-produced nanosilver solutions and also delivers the silver nanoparticles instantly into the bloodstream. With continued legislation threatening the sale of nanosilver products, you can now produce pure and endless colloidal silver with the Silver Lungs generator. Very easy to follow step-by-step instructions are provided, making production fast and simple. Go to www.silverlungs.com today and learn more about the breakthrough technology of the Silver Lungs generator. That's www.silverlungs.com.
You may be arrested and/or subject to other police action.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in 1984 has become reality.
It really says that the state is God.
The United States is now recognized globally as one of the most oppressive police states on earth. This film conclusively proves the existence of a secret network of FEMA camps, now being expanded nationwide. This documentary exposes how the continuity of government program has established an all-powerful shadow state. Police State 4 chronicles the sickening depths to which our republic has fallen. Prepare to enter the secretive world of emergency dictatorship. Body scanners, sound cannons, citizen spies, stage terror, and cameras on every street corner. It's only the beginning of the New World Order's hellish plan. The police state isn't coming. It's here. Secure your copy today at Infowars.com or see it online in the highest quality at PrisonPlanet.tv. So, you look at this PSYOP piece by Fox News, and they say there's no secret. The power company, the police knew that it was being discussed whether we should have a controlled demolition of Building 7. But it fell perfectly in its own footprint, so we didn't need to. Not hit by an aircraft, small fires in it. And for pointing out the obvious, he calls Jesse Ventura a intellectual fraud, a intellectually dishonest person. No, you're intellectually dishonest, Jeffrey Scott Shapiro. And if you're a useful idiot, you're one of the most gullible, self-deluded people that I've ever run into. And so you've got all these top police and firemen and military and FBI there, and they blow up Building 7, and Silverstein comes out and says they pulled it. And then later they say, no, we never pulled it. That's a conspiracy theory. And then now they're saying, how dare you ever question it when they admit it was being discussed whether or not to pull it. I mean, do you understand how fundamental this is? Now, I want to play some video clips, but first I'm going to read here on air Paul Joseph Watson's article that we wrote together. Bombshell, Silverstein wanted to demolish Building 7 on 9/11. And the bombshell is, here's another witness, a senior Fox News contributor and reporter who was there that day working for another media outlet, confirming what we all heard and saw on TV. And then don't forget, 1 hour before, CNN and BBC, they've now admitted, they wouldn't for 3 years admit, I predicted it correctly because I looked at who feeds them, Reuters was told Building 7 had fallen in its own footprint from natural causes. This is put out at the time that Silverstein's running around telling the police, we can wire that up in 5 minutes. You know, I mean, they wire buildings sometimes for a month, and a good percentage of the time, the whole building doesn't collapse properly. It's very hard to do. But no, they were just going to wire it, and just very quickly while 4 floors are on fire, and no big deal. They were just going to do this. So it had to be pre-wired. It's asinine to say they were looking at a controlled demolition if it wasn't preset. And then you have them putting out the story it fell on its own before it fell. And when we first found the BBC video on a major news archive site and blew the story wide open here, it's covered in my film Terror Storm, the 2nd edition. It's chronicled in about 10 minutes of the 2-hour-plus film. In that section on government-sponsored terror, it's Terror Storm, a history of government-sponsored terror. You should get that film at Infowars.com. Make copies. Give it to everyone you know. Because, see, they can't just kill Ventura. They can't just kill me. They can't claim we committed suicide. We're on record saying we're not because there's too many. The number 2 person in the Japanese government coming out and national news stories attacking him now. The guy under the president, the head of the Diet, their Congress, their speaker. You've got the former German head of intelligence and the former head of their Ministry of Defense saying inside job. You've got all these physicists and scientists and all these firefighters and police that have gone public. And you can't get us all. You kill one of us, it'll only make our information more prominent. And that's what they can't stand. That's why Larry Silverstein had thugs, and it's covered in Truth Rising, come up to Luke Radowski when they were having their weekly protest outside the New Building 7, and they said, we're going to say your backpack's a bomb, your camera's a gun. We know it isn't, but we're going to put you in prison for terrorism. They call the uniformed cops over, and the cops go, that's right, this camera's a gun. It's all on video. They would frame someone on video and say they're framing you. That's how corrupt his security goons are. And believe me, this mafia would just love to string Luke up, and they do call and death threat his family and his mother and him and other people, just like they do me, and they can't stand it. They want their police state in. That's why the ADL and others are calling for Patriots' arrest and law enforcement action against us yesterday, because they can't stand it. They need to have it out in the open, just like they tried to sell torture as a good thing. They need to get you to accept it so it can be made legal and lawful. All right, let me just read the article here. We're running out of time. Bombshell. Silverstein wanted to demolish Building 7 on 9/11. Fox News hit piece against 9/11 truth, and Jesse Ventura inadvertently reveals a shocking truth for the umpteenth time, but here it is again. And it just brings back how ridiculous it is that this is out in the open. WTC leaseholder was on the phone with his insurance carrier to see if they would authorize the controlled demolition of the building. Then they got the story ready to the media that it fell on its own. Preface from Alex Jones. To truly grasp the magnitude of this story, you really have to read the entire article. Immediately after the Pullet controversy, debunkers claimed there was no plan to conduct a controlled demolition of the building, and that's all over the news. See, they've always denied, knowing it was on record they were talking about it, they lied about that. Now the fact that officials were considering blowing up the building is established. Silverstein's consistent denial that this took place is a huge smoking gun. How did Silverstein expect to demolish the building safely when such a process takes weeks or even months to properly set up, even without the additional chaos surrounding WTC 7 on 9/11? How could explosives have been correctly placed on such a short notice inside a burning building that had already been evacuated 5 hours before, unless the explosives were already in place? This new revelation is astounding, and it needs to be investigated immediately. And we can talk about how should this be investigated. As Fox News hit piece against Jesse Ventura and the 9/11 Truth Movement, written by former Washington, D.C. professor Jeffrey Scott Shapiro, inadvertently reveals the shocking truth that World Trade Center leaseholder Larry Silverstein, who collected nearly $500 million, $6 billion total, but $500 million on Building 7, in insurance as a result of the collapse of Building 7, a 47-story structure that was not hit by a plane but collapsed within 7 seconds at free fall speed on September 11th, was on the phone to his insurance carrier attempting to convince them that the building should be brought down via controlled demolition. And for 6 years of the 8.5, NIST denied it fell at free fall. But now with the recordings and the peer-reviewed studies, they said, okay, it did fall at free fall. Not pancaking. all the math shows it would slow down, and it fell perfectly. The central column's blown, it falls in. Writing for Fox News, Jeffrey Scott Shapiro states, I was working as a journalist for Gannett News at Ground Zero that day, and I remember very clearly what we heard. And he goes on to talk about NYPD officers, Con Edison workers. We're talking about Silverstein wanting to blow it up. In February of 2002, Silverstein Properties won $861 million from industrial risk insurers to rebuild on the site of WTC-7. Silverstein Properties' estimated investment in the WTC was $386 million. The building collapse alone resulted in a payout of $500 million on that one building, based on the contention that it was an unforeseen accident. And then we have the report saying a controlled demolition would have minimized the damage caused by the building's imminent collapse, is what Shapiro said, and potentially save lives. Many law enforcement and firefighters and other journalists were aware of the possible option. This was no secret. Yet now they're not denying it was all over the news. I mean, they denied what was on the news for years. This was no conspiracy, writes Shapiro.